Hey, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm gonna talk about top 5
best DSLR cameras.
Starting at number 5.
Canon EOS 5D. Canon's classic 5D series started the trend for video in DSLRs, the legacy of which we still see today in modern DSLRs and even mirrorless cameras. I started out with video on the 5D Mark III, but at that point, video features on the camera were a nice-to-have rather than a serious hybrid feature. The 5D Mark IV now offers more high-quality DCI 4K video capture at 30 frames per second, but it's subject to a heavy 1.64x crop of the sensor, which means you'll struggle to get wide-angle shots. Compared to the D850, which offers fully uncropped 4K footage, it's a limiting factor. You do get a range of different frame rates, 30/25/24 FPS, approximate 500 megabits per second, and it's possible to extract 8.8 MP JPEGs from 4K video thanks to the Motion JPEG file format built in. In Full HD, the 5D Mark IV also shoots up to 60 frames per second, although you have to drop down to 720p HD to record slow motion at 120 frames per second.
Coming at number 4.
Canon EOS 90D. There's a lot to like about the Canon EOS 90D if you're looking for a video-centric DSLR. It effectively combines mirrorless video and live view AF with classic DSLR handling. And although it's got an APS-C sensor, you still get uncropped 4K video and a range of frame rates up to 120 frames per second in Full HD for delectable slow-motion footage. There were a few things that disappointed me about the EOS 90D, notably the single memory card slot, SD/SDHC/SDXC, and average buffer capacity. But I found that the camera does a lot, very well, for an enthusiast price. Let's start with handling. The fully articulating touchscreen makes it ideal for capturing all sorts of angles, including presenting to the camera, while the dual-pixel CMOS AF puts in a good performance when shooting video.
At number 3.
Nikon D850. The Nikon D850 has been the DSLR to beat for several years with its blend of a high-resolution sensor, excellent handling, and a range of features. On release, I remember it being passed around the office with a sense of reverence and awe. In truth, some of its specs may have been eclipsed by mirrorless models. Take the Nikon Z9 with its market-first 8K 60p maximum footage, but if you're serious about both video and stills, it's arguably still a king of the sector. For video users, you get uncropped 4K and a diverse range of frame rates in both 4K and Full HD resolutions. Unlike many professional/advanced level full-frame DSLRs, the screen tilts. Although that's not super handy for vlogging and social content, it's very helpful for recording from other awkward angles. We gave the Nikon D850 the highest score possible in our review. There was no other choice. The 45.7 MP sensor offers rich, detailed RAW files, the likes of which can be cropped heavily and still maintain their quality. Although you'd never want to push ISO to the maximum of 102,400, noise control is excellent thanks to the XT5 processor. Our reviewer tested the camera's resolution in lab tests and called it off the scale.
Number 2 of my list.
Nikon D7500. The Nikon D7500 is an aging DSLR, but it's still a good all-rounder and ideal if you record both stills and video, or if you're a photographer who's just starting to experiment with content creation. With its APS-C-sized sensor and 4K crop applied, the camera's best performance comes from staying in Full HD resolution, where you can capture a maximum of 60 frames per second. The D7500 marked the first time that Nikon introduced 4K video in a non-professional DSLR. Our reviewer felt the results were mixed, noting that the camera doesn't have on-sensor phase detect autofocus, and when using live view mode for 4K video, it relies on slower contrast detect autofocus. Still, they were reasonably impressed with the contrast detect AF in live view mode, which is what you'll mostly be using as a video shooter anyway. In terms of design, the D7500 has a carbon fiber rather than metal alloy body, which is slightly less durable but also lighter as a material. It's still a chunky, weatherproof build, which is perfect for traveling and outdoor adventures. Handling-wise, I found the tilting touchscreen helpful for awkward angles, but it's hard to use for vlogging or presenting as you can't face it toward you.
And number 1.
Canon Rebel EOS. If you're just starting out with making video content, then you'll probably have a restricted budget. For that reason, the Canon EOS 250D is an excellent option for beginners. You get a decent degree of video specs in a very wallet-friendly model. 4K video is available, but this has a fairly big crop, on top of the already cropped sensor, meaning your angle of view becomes narrower. At up to 60 frames per second available in full HD, you've got enough flexibility for recording vlogs. I did quickly get used to this when I tried the camera, but you will have to recompose your shots if you're used to uncropped footage. As we also mentioned when we reviewed the camera, it's not the cheapest Canon DSLR, but it is in our opinion the cheapest one that's actually worth buying, especially for video. Focusing isn't instant, but the camera is surprisingly zippy at following subjects around the frame, but that's once autofocus has found its target.
Check out this video description for latest price and more informations. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and stay tuned.